Welcome back to the Laureece Show, the show where we have a look at movies over the years and I share my thoughts on them. It was very hard to pick what a follow-up video to my first one should be. I didn't want to cover some of the biggest and most influential movies right away because I'm still just starting out and I want to do these movies I review justice. But then I thought I could just remake it in a couple years with updated opinions and better knowledge. So today we're covering one of the biggest and most influential movies there is.
What country you from? What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what?
That's right, today we're covering Pulp Fiction. It's pretty safe to say this is one of the most popular movies of all time, which is why I was so excited to cover it. I've never watched it and I'm pretty sure none of my friends have watched it because we're 21 and uncultured. However, that comes with a bit of an asterisk. While I haven't watched the movie before today, I have seen the countless memes of the most popular moments of the film, which was fun to finally see them in their full context in their scenes. Before we start, let me give you a bit of backstory about the film, set the scene a little bit. This film was directed by Quentin Tarantino with a budget of around $8 million and grossed $213 million worldwide, which in today's economy stands at around $475 million. So yeah, the movie was popular. Pulp Fiction came out in 1994 and is Tarantino's second directorial role of 9, with his latest film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, releasing in 2019. Tarantino has claimed in many interviews that he does aim to retire after he hits the 10 movie mark, which I do think is kind of baller. Before Pulp Fiction, I had only watched Django Unchained, which I really liked, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is really long. Kill Bill is technically split into 2 films, but he said that they're meant to be played as an extra long 2-part single film. I mean, you're the boss, bro. Tarantino is a quirky guy that likes to insert himself into his movies, which is cool until you realise he cast himself to say these lines.
Did you notice a sign on the front of my house that said dead nigger storage? It's the dead nigger in my garage.
I mean, the guy found a loophole, you've got to respect it. By the way, the only context of Tarantino I had before watching this film was that, and the well-known stylistic choice of putting feet in most of his movies. I mean, the guy found a loophole, you've got to respect it. I'm not planning on doing all the Tarantino movies right now, but never say never because I think this guy's really interesting and his style is pretty cool. You can tell this guy loves movies and wants to educate his audience about movies in different media too. Anyway, let's talk about the film that put Tarantino on the map, and for good reason too, because guys, Pulp Fiction is very good. This movie begins by telling us exactly what the film is going to be with the definition of pulp on screen. You see, this film is an homage to old pulp magazines, forms of entertainment that were mostly around between the 1890s to 1950s. They were a form of short, entertaining but cheaply made stories that were made popular by the fact that these stories would include shocking material such as gruesome violence or other sensationalistic content. I'll better explain it later, but Tarantino does a great job of making every scene feel like a separate pulp magazine short story. After we're shown this definition, we're thrown midway into a conversation between 2 people at a restaurant talking about robbing stores. Even though we're thrown right in and don't know who these people are yet, the actors are so engaging to the point where I felt like I was watching an actual couple just having a casual chat. I think this is a really cool opening as you're not quite sure if these 2 are serious when they're talking about robbing banks, and even when they're talking about robbing the restaurant they're in, it just seems like they're fantasizing, which lures us into a false sense of security until...
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
I'm gonna execute every motherfucking last one of you!
I'm not gonna lie, that's a cool way to open a movie. The next scene introduces us to Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield, 2 hitmen on their way to kill a few guys who wronged their boss. Much like the first scene, we're treated to them casually talking about McDonald's burgers and the girl Vincent is taking out tomorrow, foreshadowing what's to come in the movie. But it also gets us instantly engaged in them as characters, as these guys aren't just stereotypical bad guys with no characters, they have personalities and are clearly kind of friends. I also like this bit where Jules explains to Vincent what a pilot in a TV show is. It almost feels like it's Tarantino informing the audience himself. I also liked the foot massage story conversation. It was comedic and really engaging until I realised Tarantino was the foot director. Wait, the story wasn't even true? You could have picked any other story. Anyway, when it's time for the hitmen to be hitmen, they get into character and begin the real scene. Jules comes across like a cool yet intimidating guy who doesn't like it when you have a vocabulary of 1 word.
What? Say what again? Say what again? What?
The scene goes from 0 to 100 when he murders the hell out of this guy. And this is where I'll say this film does a great job at making every scene feel like a separate short story that starts off normal but then subverts your expectations by ending in an explosive and crazy way. For example, when we jump ahead to meet Uma Thurman, by the way, she looks so cool. Even years before I watched the film, I've seen the poster with her on it everywhere. The scene starts off normal with Vincent and Mia meeting to go out to eat. Well, actually, before we meet Mia, we'll meet her feet. Quentin, That's strike one. They go out to a restaurant, order some food, engage in some small talk, and then the famous twist scene. This dance scene is basically just Uma Thurman and John Travolta acting really good at each other. This scene is so fun, it makes it impossible to imagine anyone else playing these characters. Especially John Travolta. He shined as my favourite character. His subtle mannerisms the whole film were captivating. I don't usually laugh out loud when watching films, but I couldn't help it. Some of these lines were just so good.
What kind of your dumb ass?
I got a threshold, Jules. I got a threshold for the abuse that I will take. Now, right now, I'm a fucking race car, right? And you got me in a red. It's fucking dangerous to have a race car in a fucking red. That's all. I could blow.
Bruce Willis also joins the cast, playing Butch, a boxer who we saw previously meet with Vincent and Jules' boss, Marcellus Wallace. Butch took money from the Kingpin to take a fall in his upcoming match. However, he ends up killing his opponent, takes the winnings, and escapes back to a motel where his French girlfriend's waiting for him. The missing pocket watch scene is another example of a frantic and chaotic end to another scene that was otherwise pretty normal and calm. I really liked this short story structure and how it subverts what you'd normally expect. You have a guy going on a date and falling for a woman he really shouldn't be falling for, and instead of the scene going in the direction you expect, with both of them getting together, she ends up almost dying instead, which takes the scene in a whole other direction. And later on, when Butch runs into Marcellus, the Kingpin he ripped off, it leads to a chase scene that ends in a similarly shocking way. So they run into the shopkeeper's place, and before Butch kills him, the shopkeeper holds him up, and you expect him to say something like, "You guys get out of my store, I don't want this kind of trouble." But no, he knocks Butch out and takes them both to a sex dungeon. I understand why it was included and it fits well with the theme of the movie, but without going into too much detail, the end of the scene was just a bit too much for me. To be honest, all of the Butch section was just a little bit dragging. I think Bruce Willis plays the tough guy pretty well, but I missed the deeper character moments we got before and after this section from other characters. But it wasn't a big deal for long, because once Butch rides off into the sunset, we're brought back to the first scene with Vincent and Jules. A scene that, if you were paying attention the first time we see it, includes a great callback. We were told at the beginning of the movie that there were 4 guys in the apartment, and as you can see, there are only 3 guys here, and if you picked up on that, you're rewarded by seeing that yes, you're not wrong, there was a 4th guy, and Tarantino didn't forget either. I love as well that when this 4th guy almost kills the hitman, you see another level deeper to Jules and Vincent's characters and beliefs.
We should be fucking dead, man.
I know, we was lucky.
What just happened here was a fucking miracle.
Chill, Jules, this shit happens.
Anyway, one of the guys in the room were actually with the hitmen, and they all drive back together. They talk more about what just happened, with Jules believing it was some divine intervention. Vincent once again dismisses the idea, but turns around to ask,
What's happening?
oh my god, he blew his head off.
Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face.
Sorry, I meant he shot Marvin in the face. It was also at this point in the next scene that I realised that this film was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, or even really expected to be shown in film. You see, usually, in a different film, you'd see this scene happen and it would be played for laughs, and you'd move on to the next major story arc of the movie. However, in Pulp Fiction, we see how these guys fix the entire situation, how they deal with the body, where they dump the car. It's like a day in the life of a hitman, which is so refreshing and fun to watch. They end up taking the car to Jules' mate Jimmy's house, played by the director Tarantino himself.
Nigger, nigger, snigger, snigger!
Quentin. That's strike 2. Also, real quick, does anyone remember those old Winston Wolfe car insurance ads?
What about us? Are you with Direct Line? No. Then on your bike, Buster.
Well, imagine my surprise when I saw him walk through the door in this film. I had the biggest flashback ever. After Vincent and Jules sort everything out, they decide to go to a restaurant where don't this place look kind of familiar?
Garçon! Coffee!
Jules, look.
That's right, we're back at the beginning of the movie. It was so cool to see all these short stories tied together right at the end. I love the juxtaposition as well, as the conversation in the first scene in the restaurant was about taking their crime to the next level, and at the end of the movie, it's Jules saying he wants to get out of that life. Anyway, these characters meet in a great final scene. A scene that's so good I've actually changed my mind in spoiling it. You need to watch this for yourself, and that goes for the whole film. The one thing I'll say about it is I love the way that Jules' character arc ended, when he admits that he recounted the Bible verses at the beginning of the movie because he thought it just sounded cool, but with his new perspective on life after a close call with death, he recounts it in a somber tone which strikes more meaning into his words, as he now believes he understands what they mean. Maybe that's why Jules survived at the end and Vincent didn't. Vincent believes this is all their purpose is, because to be a murderous enforcer is more meaningful than just being a normal guy.
So you decided to be a bum?
I'll just be Jules, Vincent. No more, no less.
No, Jules, you decided to be a bum.
Jules sees this moment they should have been killed and takes it as a warning, while Vincent sees it as meaningless luck. He doesn't heed the warning and eventually his luck runs out. Now that I'm reviewing films, I want to look at the movie in two separate lights. Did I enjoy it, but also did the movie do what it wanted to do? In this case, absolutely. The scrappy style pays perfect homage to the material it's referencing, with each scene feeling like a short story with a crazy finale. While certain portions felt a little drawn out because halfway through the film I was thinking, okay, I got the point, where's the shock, because I know it's coming, I do think the tone was consistent and the performance was so fun that I didn't really care if a scene was drawn out too long. The thing that surprised me about this film is that it actually had something to say at the end, and to me, without seeing anyone else's thoughts on the film yet, it was mostly about consequences. No matter how dumb or small you think an action is, it could have huge consequences. This guy forgetting to tell the hitmen about the fourth guy in the bathroom led to his death, Vincent ignoring Jules's warning led to his death, and Butcher's French girlfriend forgetting his dad's pocket watch led to him getting kidnapped and taken to a sex dungeon. Wait, what? 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching. I hope you like this more in-depth video. Sorry it's been a couple weeks, but I really wanted to go into depth with this movie to do it justice. By the way, if you haven't watched my first video yet, I talk about how much I loved Project Hail Mary and how you should definitely give it a watch if you like emotional but comedic adventures with lovable characters. Thank you to everyone who saw my last video. I want to make this place a community where we can all come together to talk about different media we love. And as a bonus treat, I'll tell you that my next video will be a quick review on the new Michael Jackson biopic. Hoping to get that video out ASAP, so be on the lookout. See you in the next one, guys.